Welcome to About You. I'm Connie Hogan. As we kick off another holiday season here in the Bloomfield area, we're reminded of the enormous need in our community. My guest today could be an icon for the philanthropic efforts in our Tri-County area year-round. Rachel Decker is president and founder of Detroit Philanthropy, whose mission is to use the power of social impact to further the philanthropic goals in our Tri-County area. Rachel, welcome. We've been talking. We have so many things in common. I was with General Motors Foundation. I know you've been involved with so many things and do so much. Tell us a little bit to start out about, I know we were talking a little about your background and then about your current company, Detroit Philanthropy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm excited to be here today. Yeah, so I think, you know a little bit about my background, but I really developed a passion for giving back very early on. My mother did a lot of volunteer work and sort of drug me along with her quite a bit.
Me too.
So
happens like that sometimes.
Yeah. So, you know, I just really had a passion for giving back. It's what led to, you know, what I ended up majoring in college, sort of my first career, my first job, I guess I would say, you know, going back and getting my master's degree and then just, you know, starting a career in the nonprofit sector, mostly in fundraising roles. Where I just kind of progressed through the ranks, I like to say. You know, I spent some time at Common Ground, Vista Maria, Detroit Police Athletic League. Those are, you know, Haven was kind of my last job.
Yeah. I've had several people from Haven on the show.
Yeah, wonderful. And, you know,
so it's
I know
a wonderful organization.
Yeah, so yeah, you know, I'm really proud of the work that I did. It was, you know, about a 20-year career working for organizations.
So you started when you were 2? No?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's what everyone says, right?
Yeah. So you were in Naples for a while, right?
I was, yeah.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah, so I, when the, you know, recession happened here in 2009, is what took me to Florida. So I spent a little bit of time working for a small private university there, which is, you know, really kind of deepened my love of the work as well as, you know, working with donors. You know, but ultimately my heart was here. Okay. So, you know, everyone kind of teases me a little bit about
I know. I get that all the time.
Oh, you missed winters. That must be why you came back.
Right, exactly. Well, I always say, you know, they don't last all year round.
Right, yeah.
Just really 2, maybe 3 months, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot, but we're getting ready to get into that, right?
Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of what led to coming back. And then that's actually when I took the Haven position.
Oh, okay.
So I spearheaded their capital campaign, which is what resulted in the building of their new headquarters in Pontiac there. So that was awesome. Yeah. So once that project was completed is when, you know, I was kind of reevaluating things and decided to go out on my own and found Detroit Philanthropy.
So let's describe to us a little bit about why you founded Detroit Philanthropy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, I'm really passionate about helping others, about making connections, about impacting the community. So, you know, what I like to say is that I work on both sides of the philanthropy fence, which is what I really enjoy now. That I do some work with nonprofit organizations to help them with their fundraising strategies, to help them grow their revenue, you know, get new donors, all of that stuff. But then I also get to work directly with some philanthropists. So family foundations.
That's huge.
Some small companies around their giving strategies, as well as, you know, just individual donors who are maybe looking to make a bit more impact with their philanthropic dollars every year.
So what services your company offers?
Yeah, so like I said, it's, you know, fundraising for nonprofits. So really around them generating more revenue is always what it boils down to. So I help with capital campaigns. I do some development audits. Sometimes they're just small organizations that are just getting off the ground and need, you know, a fundraising plan. A lot of things like that, which organizations find, you know, really helpful. Sometimes they don't have fundraising staff yet, so they need the extra hands, and sometimes it's really just supplementing what the staff are there and already doing. And then, like I said, kind of on the other side of the philanthropy fence is working with those private donors. Around their giving strategies. You know, giving away money is harder than a lot of people think.
Right, I was just thinking, as I'm looking at these notes, like, what's your sweet spot?
Yeah.
Can you describe that? That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah. So it really is, you know, I think because of my background, because of so many years of fundraising, and because of working with those donors, that I'm able to really speak both languages, right?
I see. I got you.
So I know what the nonprofits are looking for and hoping for from their donors, and I know what the donors are looking for, right? That oftentimes, especially as you know, with corporate giving, that there's some ROI on both sides. So we really want to be mindful that folks are talking to one another. I kind of like to use this example from my time at Haven, but, we would have like a ladies group or something that would maybe organize a teddy bear drive for us, right? So they would gather all these teddy bears and the women would call and want to drop off the teddy bears. But the shelter doesn't take stuffed animals, right? Because as I assume you're a mother, but kids put stuffed animals in their mouth and then they drop them on the floor and the kid next to them puts it in their mouth.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So they're like germ breeding.
Right.
And they can't really be sanitized in a great way. A lot of them have small parts that pop off that can be choking hazards for little kids. Yeah. So, it's a very well-intentioned project. Obviously, those women, really wanted to just provide a meaningful toy for a child, but it just wasn't feasible. So, it's sometimes just about bridging that gap, right?
It is,
having the conversation with the nonprofit about what they need in advance of, trying to do the project that you're looking at.
Well, I learned a lesson about that when I just thought of this just now. When we GM moved from the old GM building to the Renaissance Center, I was part of that. It's quite a while ago now, but it seems like it was 3 years ago. But it was like 20 years ago. But it was an amazing thing, and I can't speak officially about this. But there was so much beautiful furniture in the old building, which I miss that even now, like the cherry wood desks and offices. And the chairs and the even office supplies, they were hesitant to give that stuff to nonprofits or to anybody really, because a lot of the chairs for fear of liability. See, I didn't realize that. We were astounded by that, especially about, like I said, supplies and stuff that you would think, oh my gosh, you can give them paper clips, but I mean, it's just a litigious society, I guess. But that's an example of what you're saying. You wouldn't even think about something like that, right?
So it's just important to have that dialogue and,
things you don't know what you don't know.
Right. So I don't, sometimes people ask me, because I work, on both sides of that fence again, if I work, as a matchmaker, which, I always say no to. I think that's far too aggressive of a word. But I do try to make some strategic connections if it makes sense. So, oftentimes it's just about being able to be a kind of a middleman to explain to the nonprofit what the donor's trying to accomplish and what impact they're hoping to make, and then relaying back to the donor about, this is really great, but I think we should maybe tweak what you're trying to do a little bit because that would be better for the nonprofit or, those kinds of things. Or, this time of year, I like to talk a lot about not always doing your philanthropy at the end of the year.
Right, exactly.
That needs to exist all year long. So, it's really great if you want to throw a holiday party for families in need, but maybe we think about doing a picnic in the summer, right? I mean, it doesn't always have to be something centered around the end of the year. That those families need things all year long.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I see, DP, your community connections, that covers all of this, right?
Well, no, so community connections.
That's a specific program.
Was something that I started kind of born out of COVID.
Oh, really?
So, my business at that point was only a couple of years old. So it was a way to keep myself in front of, potential clients in the community. But also there was a lot of uncertainty with nonprofits. We had to cancel our gala this year. How are we going to make up that $100,000? How are we going to sit down in front of our donors when, everyone is scrambling and everyone's at home and, all of that. So Community Connections is really an educational and networking series. So it started originally in 2020 with just webinars that I was hosting. So I was interviewing panels of corporate and foundation donors so that those that are raising dollars could be listening in about the best way to work with donors and learning some things there. And then last year we were able to add in a few in-person activities so folks could begin to network in person again. But because we were still uncertain what was going to happen this year,
amazing,
it was still very of a hybrid model. So next year we'll be moving fully in person, which I'm excited about. You know, we've had almost 800 people attend those sessions.
Really? Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
Wow.
representing about 500 different entities,
Now, where do you have
organizations.
those generally? Different
Yeah,
places?
so like I said, the panel discussions have really been virtual. They've
Oh,
been,
virtual.
yeah,
Okay, I gotcha.
webinars at this point. Moving forward, they will be in person, and the intention is to move them sort of around the area.
Okay.
So that we'll do some things downtown in Detroit, and maybe we'll do some things, you know, out in Troy or the Birmingham area, you know, moving around so that everybody, it's convenient for a lot of folks.
So now, along with these lines, the trends that you've seen and what's in store for 2023.
Yeah, you know, I think we're getting still a lot of mixed reviews, right? Is a recession coming? What is the economy
To me,
doing?
it's amazing things are as good as they are, really.
Yeah.
I mean, generally, just
Yes.
not only philanthropic, but business-wise and
Yeah.
stock market and everything. It's just
Right.
amazing that we've survived to this point. I almost feel, not to be negative, but that things are going to implode at some point, especially
Yeah.
with this rail strike. Maybe
Yes.
hopefully that doesn't happen, but
Yeah,
you
so,
know.
you know, I think we've just been getting very mixed reviews. You know, I mean, we just coming out of the shopping, what is it, Friday, the day after Thanksgiving?
Oh, right. And
Black
Cyber
Friday.
Monday. Cyber
And
Monday's
Cyber
bigger,
Monday.
right?
You know, I mean, the news is reporting, right, that those were still, people were
Huge.
still out spending a lot of money. You know, the Chronicle of Philanthropy just released a report that said that, you know, they sort of surveyed some donors and major givers throughout the country that are saying they plan to give as much away next year as that they did this year.
Wow.
So, you know, I mean, my sense is that we may see some of the smaller level donors drop off, right? Those folks who were contributing $50,
Okay.
$100, right? That the recession, like, you know,
There's
whatever.
a huge impact
That
on
things
them.
might affect them a bit more, but that the big givers are still going to be doing what they can to make up that gap. So, yeah, I think it's 2023 is maybe still a little bit TBD. And
Right.
honestly, you know, I was watching the Today Show this morning, and they said, you know, that even like PhDs are confused about what's going on in the economy right now.
That's scary, isn't it?
That they're saying one thing and consumers are behaving in a different way. So,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
I'm not an expert on all of that, but I do think that the contributions will still come.
Well, it's interesting because I'm more involved with animal
Yeah.
issues
Okay.
with Humane Society. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've done much with MHS and Marl. I don't know if you know Marl.
No, I mean, I certainly know who they are. but not
Michigan Animal
Yep.
Rescue League, but, and I won't name names, but people would know who they are. But I think that's a good example because the high net worth individuals continued,
Yeah.
and in some cases the same ones who are animal lovers in our little community, to do major stuff with
Right.
MHS as well as Marl. I mean, a whole new facility, a
Yep.
cat room.
Yeah.
I mean, just all kinds of amazing. You know, you look at it even during COVID and right after COVID, and you're like, wow. You know, and it's so much not more important, but it was more continuous
Yes.
than the smaller givers.
Right.
I think that's a
Yeah.
good point.
And what we know about human behavior is that people like to be part of solutions, right? So, you know, I feel like when you're talking about problems and issues in communities, folks really do begin to rally around those issues and still want to be helpful.
That's right. So here was a question that we were talking
Yeah.
about. What's the one thing you wish people knew more about philanthropy?
I think I touched on it a little bit already, but it's that, you know, giving away money is harder than people think.
Okay.
That, you know, there really oftentimes needs to be a strategy that, you know, folks want to make an impact. They have a cause that they're very passionate about. You know, what I talk about a lot is that there are 7,000 nonprofit organizations in the Tri-County area alone. So that's a lot to sift through.
Well, I know when believe me,
When you were
we
getting
with
requests
General
to
Motors,
GM,
oh my
yes.
God, I can't even. I could be the interviewee here.
Yes.
Because it was like when we first started. Keep in mind, you know, this was I would say it was Debbie Dingell who was president, and she'd be fine with me saying this. But we were trying to organize, and this is before a lot of the online things that were occurring. I was one of the people that kind of, you know, ushered that in with GM, which was very difficult because we're talking paper in drawers and stuff. I mean, everybody came after GM, not only in Detroit, but also throughout the country because we had facilities like back then we had Delphi. See, there was no Delphi. So we had like mucho facilities in Indiana, Ohio. We had a lot in California at the time. So we were just getting Oh my gosh, it was like,
Inundated, I'm
it was
sure.
inundated,
Yeah.
you know, it was crazy. So it was a different, it's very much a different, I think the internet and the cyber world has really, in a way, positively changed
Yes.
everything. So now you can just look up and really, and like say animals or
Yep.
whichever subject you're talking about, you can really easily compare a lot of stuff just by looking. If you don't
Yeah.
know, like I know, but some people might not know.
Yeah, well, and I think it's, it is kind of doing due diligence too, right? I mean,
Right, exactly.
yeah, maybe you can find the organizations, but how do you determine if they're really having an impact? Where your dollars are really going to go? What's involved with all of that is sometimes just hard to understand for donors that are just trying to navigate the nonprofit sector. And, at the end of the day, they really just want to have an impact and do something good. So, it can be a trickier than people think.
It is,
and I
yeah.
think too, there's oftentimes too a perception, right, that people just give because of the tax benefits and things like that. And again, we know that that's really not why people give. It's a benefit to giving oftentimes. But it's generally not what drives people to open up their pocketbooks.
No, it's their passion.
Yeah, it's their passion.
So can you tell us a little bit about the ones that you're most passionate about? I know you do a lot of different things, but like,
Yeah.
like
Well,
mine's animals and yours is
yeah.
Haven and domestic violence.
Yeah, I
or-
mean, mine really is children and families,
Okay.
Low income, that kind of stuff is really what I'm most passionate about. So I, like personally, that tends to be what I
Okay.
end
That's
up
a great one,
supporting.
yeah.
But yeah, in terms of a client base, right? It's like picking your favorite child. I can't do that.
Right, I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah,
wonderful.
right,
There are some projects that I'm working on right now
Yeah.
that I think are pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So, I am working on, and as a steering committee member, so not a client, but with a project called the Soul of Philanthropy. So it's a traveling exhibit that's moved around the country that
I've heard
highlights
of it, yeah.
it highlights black philanthropy and black
so,
giving.
yeah.
So it's been in 20 some different cities around the country thus far. It's coming to Detroit next year. So that's something I'm really excited about because I feel like it's a conversation that we haven't had a lot in our community. I have some professional athletes that I work with that are really just fun. Yeah,
I bet that's fun.
Yeah, they're always a great group to spend time with. I've got a client that's going to be launching a pretty significant capital campaign early next year, so that's something that's exciting. But yeah, a lot of, and it's really what I love about doing what I do now in the consulting role is that I'm able to impact a lot of different missions and a lot of organizations. And kind of run the whole gamut. So like I said, some small groups that are really just need me to dive in and get my hands dirty with them, all the way to organizations that are raising millions and millions of dollars a year. So it's nice to see that whole spectrum.
Now, were you involved, or was this an impact on your role in the world, in the Giving Tuesday that we just had? Because I just heard they raised like $3 billion or something. Is that right?
So I'm not involved in it. Honestly, I don't really love Giving Tuesday.
Okay, you talked about that a little earlier.
Yeah, I think it's
It makes it seem like this is all that you were going to do. Is
yes,
that it?
and
Yeah.
I think, what the data tells us about that day every year is that it's very transactional, right? That like something like 80% of the individuals that give to an organization that day never give again.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
Or they tend to be just donors that you already have that probably would have given to you in another capacity, right? Like there's a lot of donor pressure. I hear from people a lot too that are just like, I get like 30 emails on that day, and right, how are you sifting through it? And
right here,
right,
right?
you're just, I mean, that's all. I got bombarded too, and it's like, I mean, this isn't. It's very transactional. It's not how I love to see it happen. I think that there's better ways to work with your donors. I think there's a lot of pressure on organizations that feel like if we don't have some sophisticated campaign to roll out, that we're missing the boat.
Right.
And I just don't really think that that's it. And
that's a kind of a bad time to have it too, because people are already thinking of year-end giving.
Yeah. So so there's some of that debate too, right? Like, would those people have just given to you in 2 weeks?
I know. Well,
or
yeah.
did you just make them all give on one day? So, there's a lot of mixed review. Like, the experts in the fields, some say it's Giving Tuesday is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And
oh my gosh, isn't that funny?
And some are just like, it's a total waste of time and your organization can do better things. So, I always think it's,
I agree with you
yeah.
somewhat. Well, another thing is like, in my role now, I mean, I'm on these boards
Yep.
or committees, and it's like, you're going to do X or whatever, which is great. That's what they have to
Yeah.
do to be on this level, whatever. But then, and you might keep this in mind
Yeah.
for your model, so your business.
Yeah.
It's like you're on the basic, like emails or whatever. So let's say you've given whatever, let's just say 10,000, whatever.
Right.
And then the next day, oh, please, Muffy needs a new toy,
Yes.
Or whatever. And it's like, oh my God, I know it wasn't like, towards me, but it's still like, time out.
Yeah, and I feel like,
Then cater it to me.
yeah, and donors start to feel nickeled and dimed, right?
Totally.
I mean, again, it's
and
like,
harassed.
I just sent you a check.
Exactly. We just finished this huge event. Give me a breather,
yes,
kind of thing.
So I don't always think it's a great strategy.
It's not.
I hear constantly from people that are involved in a lot of different things that like it's just too overwhelming and they just end up deleting everything because they don't know what to do. So
Well, you do, and there's so many. I mean,
Yes.
what we said,
Yeah.
And I try to tell you the truth. I've unsubscribed to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Which is terrible.
Yep.
But I don't think Haven was one. But just different things. There's
Yep.
so much around
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
and they're huge. And they have, as we know, a lot of them have the pro athletes. They have Big Sean. I don't know who that is, but it's like they're different people.
Yeah.
That you want to be involved. But you have to really kind of, everybody, I think most people do, have to pick and choose somewhat
Yes,
what you want to do.
Yeah, certainly. Otherwise and I even, when I work with philanthropists, talk to them about, I really do think it's better to pick 2 or 3 organizations that you can really focus on and make a bigger impact on, than just like throwing little donations everywhere.
I think
you know
about
what
that
I
all the
mean? Right?
time, yeah.
If $1,000 is what your philanthropic budget is for the year, like I think it's better to give $1,000 to one organization or
Exactly.
500 to 2 versus like
Right.
sending $100 to 10.
I know.
So
exactly.
sometimes it's hard to pick, but I think you can have a bigger impact if you just focus in on a few instead of trying to spread the love everywhere. So.
Now, this is kind of diverting a little bit,
Yeah.
but how would you compare, if you could, let's say in Naples, which is a very wealthy community, to let's say Birmingham? I mean, you would have a perspective on that. How long did you live in Florida? Or?
Yeah, so I was there for about 5 years.
Okay, so that was enough to get yourself your feet wet, right?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of similarities.
It's probably some of the same people.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say some of the same people that just have homes
funny.
there.
That's right. I know some of them.
I mean, the Naples community is incredibly wealthy. I mean, the fun fact I used to like to share with people is that it's the second busiest private airport in the country. Because everyone is coming in and
What's
out
the
on
first? Do you know?
Orange County.
Montecito?
Yeah, LA. So, but I mean, we also know that Oakland County for many years was like the 3rd wealthiest country in the
county
in the country.
Yeah,
right. I don't know exactly where we fall anymore, but so I do think that there were certainly some similarities in that way. It's also somewhat unique because that community in Naples is more transient, right? Because a lot of those people aren't there year round,
right?
Especially the incredibly wealthy ones. I mean,
Right.
it's generally a second home for them. So they were still giving a lot of money back to their home communities while also supporting Naples. So they were kind of dividing resources. So some similarities, some differences.
And they probably don't have. I mean, they have problems, and they're different. Obviously, they've got bigger problems than us recently,
right?
Which is not the normal. But they don't have the cold weather stuff that we have here. They don't have like if you have Haven and you have these families that come in, they can't be outside because they'll die, So there's more, I think there is more of a, a severe need for human services here that the United Way really takes a lot of that, right?
Somewhat. I mean, there's also, when you think about like the county, right? Not just Naples, the city, but there's a ton of migrant workers there.
Oh, that's a good point. Very good point.
I mean, all those people that are
That's a good point.
That are picking the fruit and all of
cleaning
that stuff.
The pools.
Yes, and the homes and all of that. The food service worker.
Wow.
I mean, so there is pretty extreme poverty that still exists. You just don't really see it unless you leave like the city, you know, much like here, right? I mean, if your only perspective is Birmingham and you never drive to Pontiac or Detroit.
Which a lot of people do, but anyway,
yes,
that's another story. Right?
So you don't see it as much, but it's definitely there, so.
But don't you think Detroit, I don't know, you probably know the numbers on this, Detroit, generally, this area, is a very philanthropic, it's a very giving community.
Yes, it's very giving. I mean, yeah.
I used to see those numbers. I haven't seen those recently.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Percentage-wise, it's like per whatever capita, it's one of the top. I know it used to be.
Yes, it is. I mean, and we see that throughout, right? That we have a really robust foundation ecosystem here that a lot of communities don't have, that our corporations, big and small, are very charitable and really want to make an impact on the community, you know, all the way through to individual donors. I mean, again, people that write smaller checks as well as people who give very significant, you know, 5- and 6-figure gifts, that we really do. I think it's just something that's ingrained in us.
It is, and it rubs off, kind of rubbing off effect, right? Well, okay, we have a few more minutes left. So is there anything else that you want to talk, or just for the viewers, about your company, to say about, you know, your uniqueness in this big world that we have here, as well as what you have going for the next year, and just anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, so, you know, I think what really sets me apart is, you know, whether I'm working with nonprofits or philanthropists, is, you know, that I really try to tailor everything. I'm not a massive organization of a whole bunch of people.
You're just you, right?
Well, I'm and one other person.
Okay.
So yeah, so, you know, everything's very individualized, very customized. You know, again, I think I bring that unique perspective, having been, you know, as a fundraiser for so many years, that I can help bridge some divide. And, you know, really at the end of the day, I'm trying to make as much impact in our community as those that are, you know, doing the work hands-on, that, you know, I'm just see myself as an extension of their great work. So yeah, you know, 2023 is, you know, more client stuff coming up. Like I said, I'm very excited about our educational programs moving to in-person, that I don't have to be on the other side of a TV screen, even though this is great. But, you know, I'm excited to just gather over a cup of coffee with people and be able to do that work. So, you know, that's definitely something, like I said, that I'm excited about for next year, as well as some of those projects coming up with clients. And you know, I guess, you know, kind of my last point would just be that if folks are interested in learning more, you know, they can go to the website, which is just DetroitPhilanthropy.com. Lots of information there. You know, they can connect with me through LinkedIn and things like that. Always happy to talk to new folks and make connections and just try to make our community a stronger place.
That's great. Well, thank you, Rachel, for being here, and best of luck next year.
Yes, thank
with
you.
everything that you've been doing.
Thank you.
Thanks, and good luck in the future.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for
and
having
thank
me.
you for joining us today, and happy holidays.